reminder, if anybody is interested in doing the 5K or the 1 mile option, because I know there were some that didn't think they could handle a full 5K, but there's a 1 mile option. The money for that is due tonight, because we're getting all that sent in tomorrow. So anybody that's interested, see me or Jess as soon as this is over. And that's all you.
Life Church, what's up? Thanks for having me back yet one more week. I hope the last week was helpful. For me, it went really well. My mother saw the video and she thinks I'm like a good boy. So Thomas prayed. So Thomas, would you kick me off again one more time?
Lord, we just come before you tonight, God. I thank you for giving Zach the heart that he has, Lord, and the passion that he has, Lord, for making people's lives better, God, through whether it be workout or through your spiritual life, through word or prayer, God. And I just thank you for his heart. And I thank you for every person that's here, Lord. I wish you would bless us all abundantly, Lord. And that whatever Zach brings tonight, I wish that you would just pour into us and that we would all be open and receive it. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. So I was just listening to a teaching by Pastor Craig Rochelle, and he said, when you have a centered leader creates other leaders, but an off-center leader creates skeptical followers. And so it has always been my heart when I looked at the secondary meaning of doctor. Doctor means teacher. And so it's my role really to educate and equip my patients to make quality decisions for their eternal life spiritually. I feel like if I didn't address that, I'd be negligent, to say the least, when we have to have that reckoning with eternity. And furthermore, to add quality of life here on earth, we got to talk about some things. Now, a little bit about my backstory. Not too long ago, Pastor Allen this is the most beautiful story, man. I love you, man. I was taking testosterone, right? And I thought that was the next right thing to do because I was having chronic sinus infections. And my wife made fun of me at the end of the year. We looked at all these bills and the accounting, and she says, "You're Dr. Fitness, and you're the sickest guy in the house." And there I was, like, I used to win bodybuilding contests. I won like 15 contests in the top 3, drug testing contests. And now all of a sudden I'm taking testosterone. I abandoned my old philosophy because I had gotten so ill that somebody told me that there was a medical doctor prescribing testosterone. And I felt amazing at first, like 10 minutes, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm back. You know what I mean? I was getting bigger, and my wife was like, yo, we need to talk. And I was getting more aggressive. My mother and my Aunt Jenny, everybody was telling me, you're a little different. But I was feeling great, and I wasn't getting the sinus infections. So I was like, they must be wrong. But if you ever have 2 or 3 witnesses of people that really love you and they're confirming the same thing, chances are you might be wrong. That was me. So around that time, Pastor Allen's like, man, I want you to come to our church and teach on nutrition. And at this point, I just got done playing basketball with my little boy, and he kicked me in my backside while we were playing basketball. Now, I'm from the old school. Like, had I done that to my father, I'd have been dead, buried. Come on, right? Okay, so now I'm torn between this generation and the next, and I'm like, I don't want to kill him because Mama's right there watching. I'm going to get him later. And, but I didn't. But my wife went in and she found my testosterone after I beat Isaac. I didn't even let him score again, and I trash talked him, and she's like, you are way too aggressive. We're throwing out your drugs. So I had no drugs, and now I have an invitation to speak at church, and I got nothing. So I got down on my knees in the back cave, the old back of my office, and I'm like, Lord, if you're going to use me to come to the church, I'm not going to lie to these people and act like I have something if I don't. So you're going to have to show me what to present. So that's how this all started. And again, I'll say thank you. You've been amazing. Your family's been amazing. Pat and Barry get in a car accident. Next thing you know, I get the privilege to take care of them. I get a settlement, and I can redecorate the office and give God the glory that he deserves because it looks way better, and they're feeling better. So it's been wonderful. So thank you. I'm getting ready to go to Nashville at the end of March, and we're going to learn some more stuff from Dr. Pomp and his team. But Jesus said, let's start with what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6, verse 16. He says, and when you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces that their fasting may be seen by others. Truly I say to you that they have received their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, that your fasting may not be seen by others, but by your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Now, this isn't a chapter that talks about 3 biomarkers of a Christian: praying, giving, and fasting. I don't want to forsake the first 2 because prayer is so powerful. It's a game changer. We wanted to talk about that last week and a little bit about giving and serving and crossing over the line into those areas of availability. Now we're going to talk about fasting, because the Bible talks about some things only break through by prayer and fasting. So we talked about some spirituality this week. Now we want to talk about physicality, physiology this week. But what we want to talk about is how Jesus had a promise in the Bible that is being corroborated by science. Not too long ago, 2016, this word, autophagy, okay? Autophagy is a function of Miss Pac-Man, the autophage. She's the icon, and she will go through your body and clean up debris and disease and toxins and body fat if you go on a water fast past 13 hours, which includes your sleep time. This is good news for us, for saints, because not only are we going to get spiritually, we're going to get spiritual clarity, right? We're denying the flesh. We're training to overcome that tension between our flesh man to grow strength in our spirit man. But one of the collateral benefits, and this is why Jesus is so merciful, good, and amazing, is there's multiple benefits to being obedient. Come and see and taste that the Lord is good. One of those benefits is the autophage starts going through the body and cleaning house, killing precancer cells, cancer cells, autoimmune disease cells, yeast, mold, fungus, heavy metal poison. Your body will start to, like a self-cleaning oven, start to clean house for you. So I love people that want to work hard in the gym. I get it, that's cool. But if you want to work smart and be obedient, we got to learn this discipline. It's not easy though. Some things only by prayer and fasting. And you know, the best fast that I've done so far is when I've asked somebody else to pray for me. For somebody else to intercede. Because my old programming as a bodybuilder was eating every 2-3 hours for years. So to deprogram that mentality and go on almost a 3-day fast, I've done that like one time. And then several 2-day fasts and a lot of 1-day block fasts and a lot of 16 to 18 hour intermittent fasts. But we want to cover that because you will not only get leaner, you'll get healthier. But this is God's way. The world's way was bodybuilding, lift an hour and a half every day, you know, cut your carbs, cut your water, cut your salt, all this stuff. And it's so complex that this isn't. This is liberating. This freed me up from a lot of bondage of obsessing with the flesh where I have more time and energy to focus on other things. And that includes God and other people rather than just thinking about myself. Bodybuilding is a very self-centered, obsessive sport. And to be free from that, I'd say thank you. Thank you very much. Pound of prevention equals cure. I put a spin on it. Why wait to get cancer until you go, well, wait a minute, I shouldn't be feeding sugar to these cancer cells. Why don't we just fast? When you fast, you're not eating sugar. You're eating nothing. You're drinking water. So let's talk about toxins, because this is the assault culprit in postmodern America when we're dealing with chemicals of all sorts and processing in our foods and preservatives. A toxin is an antigenic and irritational poison or venom of plant or animal origin produced by or derived from microorganisms causing disease when present even at low concentrations in the body. The body's very sensitive, kind of like the princess and the pea. It's very sensitive. So we have to be aware of that, okay? Moving fast now. Oh, by the way, questions will be answered in private sessions. With me personally, doctors need patience, just so you know. But I'm going to just throw a lot of yak at you tonight, so hope it lands and helps you out. Now, this is a crazy chart. Let's just start with the double ring circle. That represents a brain cell. There's a cell membrane in your brain. That brain cell membrane has little receptor sites. Those receptor sites are meant to be like shipping and receiving and allow hormones to come, and your body will communicate from cell to cell via the bloodstream and via those hormones that are in the bloodstream. However, if a little dot here, which represents a toxin, deposits in there, it clogs, kind of like clogging an oil filter. Now the hormone can't get into that receptor site. It blocks communication from cell to cell, and now what we have in the body is called hormone dysregulation. You ever been in a fight with your spouse? Talk to the hand, you're sleeping on the couch. That's what happens in the physical body when we are polluted with toxins. No communication, nothing's getting along, and then we have dysfunction, which is the onset of disease. It gets worse because now, if that toxin gets into the mitochondria, which is a little organelle inside the cell, that's your energy turbine. If that gets inflamed, now you have fatigue, insomnia. If it gets all the way into where your genetics are, your DNA, your chromosomes, your telomeres start to shorten, that means your lifespan starts to get eaten up. Now your body switches on from health to disease. And that's where autoimmune is being activated at epic proportions in this culture due to genetically modified foods, toxins, mold, metals, all kind of garbage that's cytotoxins in the food. So what we have to do is be a better steward of what's literally coming into the body, and what is the best way to remove these toxins from the body? We just got talking about what Jesus said. The autophage will go in and start cleaning house. I don't want you to miss it. It's that simple. If you start to implement even intermittent fasting, even 16 hours a day, stop eating at 8 p.m. You can drink water all the way till noon the next day. That gives you 16 hours. You got past 13, so that gives you +3 hours of free autophagy. Miss Pac-Man's going through the body, cleaning out these toxins in the receptor sites and allowing your body to do business with itself again. So there's healing. And there's metabolic activity, meaning you can now burn fat. You can get out of autoimmune harm's way. So that's a lot going on there. The hormones need to come in there. T3, which is the active form of thyroid. Leptin means I'm full. That's your satiety hormone. Growth hormone, which is anti-aging. And testosterone, that's going to give you your vigor, your strength, and a lot of metabolism help too. If those can't get through, business shuts down and the body starts to age and get sick. So we've got to fix that. Right? The factors of aging, the standard American diet. Look at this one. A lot of people don't want to hear this, but it's true. Let's go to the gym. Let's go to the gym. Well, that's great. But if you overtrain and you're full of toxins, that's going to be further increasing the oxidative stress in your body. It's like riding your engine hard and it needs an oil change. It's on low oil. No good. First things first. Let's check under the hood. Okay? Toxins, medicines, lack of sleep, and stress. These will all age you quickly. So the antidote, control glucose. What's that mean? Every time we eat, insulin rushes into the body. Let's eat less often. Then you can control glucose because now your body's not secreting insulin all the time, which is a fat storage, age me, inflame me hormone. So you can just control it by dropping your meals down to 2 meals a day. When you break your fast around noon to 2 o'clock, break fast. But later, once you got some autophagy, don't be eating snacks all throughout the course of the day, then wait till about 7 o'clock, have your big dinner, like a feast. What we need is feast-famine cycles. We don't need feeding all the time. It's not working. I used to do it, it worked. Then they started developing genetically modified organisms. The corn, the wheat, and the soy has all been modified to benefit the consumer? No. The manufacturer's pocketbook. When that bent molecular structure hits our body, obesity, autoimmune, leaky gut, irritable bowel, Crohn's, all those things are happening to people, okay? So we got to look out. I would basically say avoid wheat, avoid corn, and avoid soy. And the big thing now is oils. When we go out and we think, okay, I'm going to have some wings, like it's Atkins, it's cool. When wings are fried in that bad oil and the cheap vegetable oils, that is the biggest inflammation agent for that cell membrane. We got to cut out those cheap oils, okay? So now we got to consider diet variation. What's that mean? Well, I tried to talk some of my patients into going vegetarian just to change it up. Not easy, but it is diet variation, which is so good for the body. It's disciplining the flesh. Let's say remove that meat for a little bit. But there are other ways to implement diet variation. I'll teach you some more, but that's just one example. Intermittent fasting, that's a portion of the day we're going to just not eat. We'll just drink water. Burst training on empty, that means early in the morning before you've eaten anything. That's when you want to do your exercise because that's when your hormone optimization is going to give you the biggest benefits. I'll show you a chart on that later. And then cellular detox. I'll teach you about the 5 hours of cellular detox that I got from a guru of mine, Dr. Daniel Pompa. Here they go. Number 1, remove the interference. I had a lady in my office not too long ago. She was addicted to some meds. from her MD to the point where it was literally affecting her spiritually. And she comes in, she weighs in, she's like, why isn't it happening? I said, you got to deal with that thing of yours. Just telling you. So she finally, one day, I was in the office, I looked her in the eye, I said, listen, I'm going to ask you this. I want you to pay attention. I said, Jesus says, behold, I stand at the door of your heart and knock. And if anyone would open the door, I'd come in and have dinner with him or her, he or she with me. Are you interested in that? She looked over here. I said, I'm going to ask you again. She looked over here. I said, I'm going to ask you one more time. And I looked at her in the eye, and she said, yeah. I kid you not, she came in for her next appointment. She said, I'm leaving for treatment center. She's already down over 16 pounds now. But removing the interference, because that med was blocking the receptor sites in her cell membrane, which was blocking her ability to have hormone regulation, where everything could start to work for her metabolically. She's losing weight now. And I told her, I said, I remember you looked at me when we were weighing in and you thought I was full of BS, but I told you, I knew it. I knew there was more to it, but we're best of buddies right now. Restore the cell membrane. The cell membrane is made out of fat. So if we're eating sugar all the time for fuel, that's going to release a lot of insulin. But if we want to repair the cell membrane, we could switch over to a fuel like fat. We could eat avocado oil, coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil on our salads. Those types of fuel will give you energy without a crash, and it'll repair the cell membrane. Okay, we got to understand the molecular structure of our body. Reinvigorate cell energy. How do we do that? That's the mitochondria. That's that little organelle that's shaped like a kidney bean. How do we do that? We fast. We clean it out. If we clean out the cell membrane, the body, even if those organelles are old and weak and tired, they'll die. When you fast, your body will attack weak cells, and your body literally will produce brand new organelles and give you new energy. It's amazing, some of the benefits that Jesus was talking about. Reduce inflammation. The inflammation around the cell membrane. If I have toxins all over my skin, right, and I don't wash with some soap for about a week or two, is it possible to get an infection? Irritation at least? Same thing with the cell membrane. How do we reduce the inflammation? We got to clean it out. How do we clean it? The fast, the water fast, intermittent or block fast, and then reset methylation. Methylation is a process of protection around the chromosomes in the nucleus of that cell membrane. Your chromosomes are what make you unique. Those are under attack. The Bible says the thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy, but Jesus has come to give us life and life abundantly. He wants to protect that. The way we protect that is by getting on that fast and allowing that cell membrane to clean out, and then we can start to allow the toxins that are on the inside of the cell to start to make their way back out of that cell membrane, which should be porous. It should allow shipping and receiving. But if it's all blocked up and we have toxins in there, then it's continually going to affect the chromosome. So that's the 5 R's of cellular detox. There are 3 types of stress that all come down into a common bucket. Physical stress. It could be stress from training or not training, or training too much or not training enough, or your job-related work stress, the way you sit or stand too long. Let me tell you something. I'm a chiropractor, unapologetically. There's nothing like getting a nice adjustment. If you don't get adjusted, you should, because it would really be wonderful for your physical body to get adjusted once a week, especially if you're in training. Chemical stress, that's what we're talking about with the cell. When we're talking about fasting, we're talking about disrupting the toxicity of that chemical stress. So we're looking at the standard American diet, including the standard orthodoxy of just taking medicines to treat symptoms rather than going after the cause, the root cause of disease. And I think we need to start rethinking what we're doing instead of just masking symptoms. Let's become a little bit more educated, and that's what I would hope to help you with. Look at the root cause. What is really going on with Zac, who was having chronic sinusitis? Mold, metal in my teeth, so I have a room in my house that needs mold remediation. I had mercury fillings that I've gotten all removed because mercury and silver fillings are very biotoxic. Every time you drink hot coffee, they vaporize and create more silver toxin to the brain cell, which has now affected my thyroid, because that creates a loop on the hypothalamic loop. So there's a lot going on with toxins that I never knew about. Skin products, especially girls, if they're like close to the edge, even eye makeup now, that's why they're having to move into hypoallergenic. The sunblock that we use is a toxin, the insect repellent. I mean, you really, really, really have to shop for ethical companies that are not putting toxins into our skin, because that's our biggest organ. So we need to be a little bit more holistically conscientious about some of those areas of intrusion, if you will. Emotional stress, bring it to the church. The local church, as Bill Hybels says, is the hope of the world. You take that to the cross. I found a place that does 100% free Christian counseling. It's amazing. It's called the church, Sunday morning, 10 o'clock. It's free. Show up. Then you feel like, then you realize, oh my goodness, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. And then you start wanting to tithe. It's like, man, this is good. Then you want to invite people because it's the best thing you ever found. It's just how it works, man. If you get it, it changes your life. There's this funny word over here called microbiome. That's talking about the bacterial balance in your mouth, on your skin, and in your gut. Women know a lot about that with respect to taking antibiotics and then getting a yeast infection. If we get that out of balance, that is such a fragile ecosystem that it literally can mess up our metabolism, our immune system. We've got to really take a deeper look into what's going on here in the microbiome. And like the quick fix is like, oh yeah, I took some antibiotics, now just take some probiotics. We'll fix it. No. That ecosystem is so huge. You take one little monoculture or one little monostrain, it's a drop in the bucket. That thing's an ocean. So what do we want to do to fix that? Well, it comes back to fasting. Jesus said, when you fast, do you know that if you have E. coli overgrowth or yeast, when you fast, those things start to die, and it starts to level back the playing field. And then we can eat some foods like fermented foods and rebuild that normal flora, that bacterial balance. What are some fermented foods? Sauerkraut, pickles, right? Kimchi, kombucha. Anything else? Greek yogurt. We can get some cultures there. And we can rebuild that thing and we can get our health back intact. Okay, that's very important to understand. I got this from a Pink Floyd t-shirt. All right? If we look at disease now with a new perspective, inflammation hits our body. Inflammation is a result of toxins that irritate us, right? So I've got toxins on my skin. If I don't wash it, it irritates me. Same way with the cell membrane. But now it goes through the prism of Zachary's unique genetics. My father was an asthmatic, right? Lung cancer, asthma. When I was getting sick, what was I getting? Sinus infections. My DNA was bent in the same direction as my father's genetics. But that's fine and dandy. So there's one way we could say, oh, well, you know, I'm just going to die with what my dad died. Or I could say, wait a minute, let's put a dam up here. Let's block that inflammation from hitting my DNA. How do we do that? Well, let's clean the body out by fasting. That's how. You don't have to do what Daddy did. No. I want all the good things from my dad and none of the rest. You know, kind of like that. Inflammation defined as the body's allergic reaction or response to stress, be it physical, chemical, emotional, or all of the above. Did you know that if you have an overload of emotional stress, that can literally affect your physical body? So it may not even be chemical stuff. Pastor Allen, this ministry is clutch. There is literally lifespans being extended here, life abundantly, as a result of people being able to come in and have a man with a good set of shoulders that loves Jesus. Yes, sir. Thank you. Carol, thank you. Thomas, thank you. Patty, Barry, thank you. Saving lives, it really is. And then in addition to that, a church that understands that there are two other areas that go into that are shortening lives. The thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But Jesus said, I've come to give them life and life abundantly. And Life Church gets it. Life Church is saying, let's look at the chemical, let's look at the physical, let's do something about it. If you didn't get it, I wouldn't be standing here. But thank you. But we can start pouring that bucket out so people's immune system doesn't go on hyperactive alert. Because that's what autoimmune disease is essentially. Your body gets so overwhelmed that it just tells everything in your body, all your immunoglobulins, and all of your cavalry to start attacking because we're under assault. And then it starts attacking its own cells at a hypervigilant pace and can't shut it off because it freaked out. And so we're trying to prevent that. All right. So here's what the timeline of intermittent fasting looks like. You got Miss Pac-Man here, right? Say this is 8 p.m. tonight. Okay? We're going to get over here to, say, noon or 2 o'clock tomorrow. If I can make it to 2 and I can get past 13, right? All right, that's at 9 a.m., right? That's when she kicks in. And now this little purple hash area is the time where she can clean my body out. And you guys can have that same access. That's the research at the 13-hour mark. You can take it beyond that. If you feel grace and you just feel you're feeling good, you got someone praying for you, and every time you feel like I could eat or I couldn't, then go pray. Pray for somebody. Get your mind off your food and your body and take it. See how far the Lord will help you take it. And you will get amazing healing benefits, and I guarantee you the Lord will do some other things for you. Fasting for a purpose. Painful inflammation, cancer cells, body fat, autoimmune disease, toxins, weak mitochondria, weak cells, and yeast will all be gobbled up by Miss Pac-Man, the autophage. She also has an ally called the autolytic cell, and it's this little TMT, like this little time bomb icon, and that actually partners with the autophage, but instead of engulfing it, it actually explodes toxic weak cells. So it's a really cool system that we have in our body that starts to heal us when you're not eating. That's something. For free. No product for sale. Just coaching. I couldn't miss laminin. Laminin is a protein molecule. It's a cell adhesion molecule. And under an electron microscope inside of your body, that is literally the rebar that God put in our body that holds our cells together. In Colossians 1:16 and 17, paraphrase, it says, in him are all things held together, and that includes you. So when you feel like you can't hold it all together, Christ literally put his logo inside of you, and he's holding you together. It's pretty awesome. Look it up, laminin. We talked a little bit about the microbiome and the bacterial balance. We covered that. We got to be careful with overuse of antibiotics and sugar, because that's what destroys that ecosystem. Fasting and fermented foods will rebuild. Okay? We got to reboot that computer for sure. The chiropractic adjustment. Little plug for chiro. Big fan. It releases a healing in your body. Research says 200% boost in your immune system post-chiropractic adjustment by opening up the nerve pathway so that your brain cell can communicate to the organs and to the tissue cells in the periphery. And then the fasting and burst training harnesses that healing. You get a 2,000% burst with growth hormone, and that's anti-aging. That's for guys. Women get about 1,300%, which is still way beyond what we're dealing with. Once you're past 40, those hormones are dropping. But there's a reservoir of growth hormone in your pituitary gland that sits in your brain, the fountain of youth, when you partner the right stimuli, famine and frenzy. You put those two together, your body will squirt and release that into the system. It's an anti-aging hormone. Research shows it. That's how we access it. So it's smart training. Look at this. This is a crazy stat. The average American eats 17 to 21 times per day. That's including our snacks and our little beverages. Okay, so that's an average of 19 times a day where we're secreting insulin. You want to talk about rapid aging and inflammation? Go to the snack machine. Oh yeah, protein bar. And even some of it's good, some of it's not so good, and we're like wondering why we're like, trying to run off food. But the truth is you have like 180,000 calories on your body that you could like literally be burning if you just didn't eat for a little bit. You wouldn't die, you'd be all right. The goal is not to eat less, however, is to eat less often. So when it's time to eat and have a feast, the Jews would fast and then they would feast. There's feast and famine cycles, and that is amazing for your body. There's a lot of healing that happens in that, what we call diet variation. You're going to throw your body a change up. For instance, you're in a relationship and you start to take your girl for granted. The only time you get her flowers is when you do something wrong. Really boring, and then you got dumped and you're like, But if you throw your body some curveballs and you throw your relationship some curveballs and you create this really, really radical roller coaster ride of excitement, you have a better relationship. Same is true with the body. Feast and famine cycles. Flowers just because, if you will. Okay? Here's the protocol. Diet variation we're talking about now. We're going to talk about 5 weekdays, Monday through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This is a great example of how to change it up. Keep that relationship fresh. Intermittent fasting, 5 days a week. 16 hours of famine, 6 to 8 hours of amazing nourishment. Can you imagine putting organic foods, ketogenic foods in your body, emphasizing healthy fats and organic greens and some berries, and then some grass-fed meats, proteins? Can you imagine how good we would feel if we started emptying out that toxic bucket and started putting really good stuff in our body and drinking lots of clean water? Saturday, what if we had a 23-hour fast and waited to the end of the day and had an amazing date night, had a feast? And then Sunday, what if we let it rip and just had 3 large meals with carbs? That would be really good actually for the thyroid, because when you start to go keto too long, it messes up your body's ability to convert T4 to T3, the active form of thyroid, so it would be better to have a carb day. I wouldn't say a cheat day, like eat like you never learned anything, but you could load up on some carbs. You know, pretend like you've been in class, you know? Sorry. I get a little sassy.
So that's what I'm doing.
You should have met my father, though. This is nothing. Okay. Let's talk about the ketogenic diet. The ketogenic diet is pretty hip right now. It's not a diet to live on, nor is a vegan diet, in my opinion. However, some people are like, they're like, oh, this is the holy grail. I look at diet techniques as almost interchangeable parts, because we're looking for a yield in our body, a way to feel better, a way to look better. But if you kind of get stuck in your own rut, like this is what I do and that's it, you're gonna hurt your health long term. And then you're gonna be like me, and you're gonna have your mom and your Aunt Jenny, and you're gonna have something about like 3 other people saying, hey man, you need to change a few things. I'm telling you, this is what happens, because someone's gonna love you with the truth. Change is gonna be our friend. So ketogenic is one good thing to change. It's really good for cleaning out the brain cells in the body and getting rid of sugar and all the toxins that come from living on sugar. Fats burn very clean, like a green fuel. Sugar is like actually building a bonfire in this room. It would heat the room, but it would chase us out of here because of smoke inhalation. That's what it does to the body. It's energy, but there's a lot of toxic byproducts as it relates to aging, inflammation, and that kind of stuff. Keeping the carbs down, okay? Steady energy. 70% fats, isn't that crazy? Because that would freak me out like years ago, because we were all programmed, you are what you eat, so if I eat fat, I'm gonna get fat. But if you stay on this too long, it'll backfire. That's what I learned. You gotta shift out of it. Another really good diet variation would be to go keto, fast till noon, go keto throughout the course of the day, and have an amazing carb meal at the end of the day. So you could have diet variation within a day itself, and so you could include fasting, keto, and a carb load meal. And that's some of the best that I've looked and felt, because that carb meal gave me satiety before I went to bed, slept like a baby, good on the thyroid. So I think that's going to be our next move that I'm going to suggest is fast, keto, carb load, and try that out. But we always need a coach to help us with change. What's next? 2 Corinthians 9:10, the Bible says that God gives seed to the sower. Can you imagine how God feels when a company named Monsanto started creating genetically modified foods? He started changing the seeds that God gave us. They have such a bad reputation, they had to change their name to Bayer, because people were getting onto them, and they have a bad image. So now, what's happening is, we're starting to realize the stuff that God made He knows what He's doing. He's the great physician, the best nutritionist ever. And it's to His glory to take good care of His kids. Organic vegetables, God foods, grass-fed meats, Atlantic salmon, not what? Okay, so like farm-raised salmon, they're feeding fish pellets, which is full of genetically modified grains. So indirectly, we're getting GMOs through farm-raised fish. And then healthy fats, again, avocado oil, seeds, coconut oil, and extra virgin olive oil. But we want to get away from cottonseed, safflower, all of those cheap, compressed, hydrogenated oils. Avoid preservative, processed food, pre-packed excitotoxins, and sugar. And we want to get back over here into the God food category, au naturel. Okay? Weight loss resistance, as my guru said, it comes from healing the cell. He said if you don't heal the cell first, you cannot get well. So you could have the look of well-being, but the truth is, if that cell isn't clean on the inside, there's the onset of disease beginning. There's that attack of your own immune system over time. So we really have to look deeper to the brain cell where the toxicities are happening. Okay? I'm going to skip this. We're going to look at 3 ancient healing strategies. Fasting, because sometimes in the ancient cultures there was nothing to eat. So by default, the hunter-food-gatherer scenario, I couldn't find anything today, honey, I guess we're fasting. Right? It wasn't until like the modern, kind of convenience culture where we just, we can eat all the time. That's great. But that's never how it really was. So, like literally, cultures over time where things were more difficult was literally a health blessing. So our inconvenience of our culture has actually become our curse. Because we're always feeding, which deactivates the autophage, so she never gets to clean house. So that's probably why the Lord allowed us to receive this information in 2016, where people were like, he was right all along. He knew we needed help at this time. Ketosis, cutting back to carbs, letting your body burn on ketones, which is very clean, healthy, energetic fuel, will help you lean out and feel better if you can get past the hangries. And then the diet variation, which we're talking about, like having feast-famine cycles, vegetarian or carb loading, all of those kind of changes. I got this from a buddy of mine. His name is Ben Azadi. He came up with 12 pillars of health. Blueberries every day, green tea in the morning, which activates certain hormones. And we used to say that you cannot reduce body fat in the abs. The new research is saying if you fasted and you take green tea and you do 10 minutes of abs in the morning, it'll actually direct the blood flow to go after brown fat, which will burn the white belly fat. So this is like renewed hope for us, that we can fast, take the green tea, and then go after abs every morning before you do your training. And that's going to help us. Fixing our sleep, 98% of our fat is being burned in our sleep. And if you're struggling with that, we got to fix that. Because you can do all the hard workouts you want, but if your body's not repairing itself at night with all of its hormones, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. Move more, stop snacking between meals, include fasting into your protocol, be it block fasting, intermittent. The goal, Dr. Pompa says, is to get a 5-day water fast once a year. That's God's number of grace. But if you get 5-day fast once a year, the research says it will remove the incidence of cancer in your life by 99%. One 5-day water fast a year. So that should be a goal. And it could be done as a tribe. It could be done with cultures that walk together, train together, and then we say, hey, let's all kind of bind together and let's encourage one another in a fast. Let's seek God and let's seek His face for our heaven. That could be done. Okay? An avocado every day. Amazing for you. Before you go to bed, if you're struggling with sleep and you're worried, get a gratitude journal out and start writing down things you're thankful for. Love and gratitude are two amazing emotions. But I was watching like gangster movies before I was going to bed with all this like violence, and I'm like, no wonder I can't sleep, because all it does is partner with my anxiety and my worries. So I'm having to change a few things. 7 to 9 cups of leafy vegetables, organic, please. If it's not organic, then what they're doing is they're spraying glyphosate, which is Roundup. It's a pesticide all over our food, and that's what's messing us up. It's giving us leaky gut. It's giving us more autoimmune disease. So that's why it's important to pay a little bit more for organics, if you will. Avoiding the cheap vegetable oils. All those compressed hydrogenated oils, awful for you. Anything we eat in a fast food restaurant that's fried, that's hurting us. Just saying. I looked at some chips today that my wife bought. She's really made a huge shift for our family. But even these organic chips, they're fried in cottonseed oil. That's one of those cheap oils that wreaks havoc and inflames the cell membrane. It blocks hormone communication from cell to cell. So we're still working on that. It's a process. Choose faith over fear and drink copious amounts of water, especially when you're on a water fast. You need some vehicle by which your body's going to export toxins out of the body through the urea, okay? Moving right along, 7 benefits of fasting. And these are all physical benefits, okay? Autophagy, that's Miss Pac-Man. She'll clean up the garbage cells for you. Stem cells, anybody know what those are? Those are like brand new cells that they're like harvesting now in clinics from like the umbilical cord of a delivered baby. Now they're taking all those young viable cells and they're transplanting them in joints, shoulders, knees. People are feeling better. Did you know after 30 hours on a fast, your body produces its own for free? The stem cell replacement surgery costs about $8,000. But if we start right, yeah, right? Right, so if you want to get some of that action without the $8 grand, you can just work on partnering up and lengthening your block fast into about a 3-day to 5-day fast, and then you'll get plenty of your own stem cells, reproductive. When you fast, your body burns through all of its sugar, and then it gets the ketones, and you're going to have more energy. Okay? It's good for your gut, it burns fat, and it starts to heal the brain. Hormone optimization. We have growth hormone, which is our anti-aging, youthful hormone, versus insulin. When you get into your fast, your body starts to rise growth hormone. The anti-aging effect goes up, the insulin goes down. That's a big deal for our body. If we're going to start to want to live longer and feel better as we're around here, including the fast into your new lifestyle would be a must. Energy deviation. Okay, Thanksgiving dinner. Right? And we got guests and I'm miserable. You know that feeling? Then you want to just go take a nap? Right, I'm out, you know. But if we're not eating, we have all of that energy in our body for healing, playing, instead of shuttling it to digestion. Because when there's a bunch of food, a bolus of food in your gut, your body has to send a lot of blood flow to try to dissolve that. But if you don't have that going on, you have all that energy for exercise or for focusing on somebody else rather than your own. I'm miserable. Why did I do that? And I know that all too well. Fasting resets the microbiome, that bacterial balance in your gut. It'll kill out the E. coli and all the overgrowth of yeast. It'll level that playing field so you can start to reboot that computer and put in good bacteria. And that'll help you with your healthy metabolism. And it resets your genes. There's a couple of different types of genes that have been isolated. The SERT one is a longevity gene. The obesity gene is the agouti gene, and that's been isolated in mice. And when that agouti gene gets activated, those mice just blow on up. But you can shut that off by fasting and get back to activating the SERT1 longevity gene. Isn't that pretty cool? And that's just getting better and more efficient, proficient at fasting. Okay, a little diet variation. Well, okay, let's try another fast. Maybe just a day. Maybe just 18 hours today. Maybe 16 hours today. Maybe by Saturday I'm going to do that 23-hour fast like in the 5-1-1 protocol. But the more you practice that, the healthier your body's going to become. It's going to start to reset your genes and turn your body away from disease back to health. I got this math equation from Dave Ramsey. It's awesome. The M is for momentum. If you want momentum in your health and your life, it's equal to F subscript I. That means focused intensity over time. That means I'm patient and I'm focused and I'm prayerful. I'm trusting God. When God is active in your life, you're faithful and focused over time. God makes you look better than you are. He gives you momentum. The problem with momentum is when you got it, you start to get a little comfortable and arrogant and prideful, and you start to think, look how good I'm doing. And then God resets you, and He has to bring you back to your knees, and you have to get humbled all over again. Story of our lives. The story of the Israelites, right? Right. So it's better just to keep your eyes on Him and keep doing your work and thank Him. I was thinking about Daniel. Something really cool he did in the Bible. He hit his knees 3 times a day and thank God. It's humble. The keys to longevity, in review, protect the cell membrane. Get that inflammation out of there. Get rid of those oils, cheap oils, fried foods, get rid of sugars. Start fasting to open up those little shipping receiving ports, the cell membrane receptacle sites. Let's fix the microbiome by fasting and starting to eat some fermented foods to reboot that computer. Remember, the pituitary gland has a reservoir of growth hormone in it. That's the anti-aging hormone. If you mesh your famine with your frenzy, early morning training on a fast, your body will release that and you won't look like you've been road hard. You'll be around and you'll feel better and you'll look better. And then consider the autophagy. Consider making sure she gets activated through the course of your week when you do diet variation, because you want that cleaning out of one's body. That's called working smart. We don't want to just work hard, just train. We need to understand some things in science that are corroborated with the scriptures. Let's talk about stress. There's stress, they say, is the #1 killer. Well, there's good stress and there's bad stress. Let's not just stereotype it. Fasting, burst training, weight training, learning, autophagy, right associations, and letting God arise in your life, getting closer to God. Those would be good stresses. They're not easy to do. They're stressful to make those changes if you're not there yet, but it's worth it. It's going to help you to get healthier. That's all going to help you with growth hormone. Cortisol is like a wear and tear hormone, like an aging, tear you down, inflammation, kill you type hormone. Wrong friendships, poor diet, lack of movement, lack of water, sunshine, no time for God, poor posture. And I don't mean when you're just relaxing. I'm talking about even in your training. Your training is when your posture is most important. Somebody to teach you technique. When you're relaxing, just get relaxed. I'm not some kind of posture Nazi. But what I am saying is when you're under a load of heavy weights, you better know what you're doing. Because you get hurt and then you get discouraged. Okay? posture during training. And then consider overtraining, because there's a lot of research that says overdoing it, too much distance running, too much ground and pound on the concrete creates an accelerated amount of oxidative stress, which could actually age you more, especially if that cell membrane is dirty. Change that oil filter, cut your training intervals down, but increase the intensity. So I would say less is more in terms of training duration. Like find a way to safely up the intensity of the training, so you're getting that growth hormone spurred into the body. Here's the graph that will talk about how that growth hormone happens. So here we have fasting, 16 to 18 hours. The autophage is doing its work, and then all of a sudden, Pat Barry got me this great picture of this bear chasing a guy on a bike. Can you imagine just being on your bike and you're going out for a really chill ride, all of a sudden this big brown bear is behind you. You're going to pedal a little differently, right? So when you do that, you're going to have this huge peak in growth hormone, and it's going to last in your body for 36 to 48 hours. This is so cool. So you don't have to overtrain every day. Once you get that to dump, you can take a day off, because that growth hormone will stay there for 36, max 48 hours. So every other day you can do something really, really frantic in the gym. And typically, some of these workout intervals are only 4 minutes. And we covered some of that in the last semester here. It's really cool. But you can get a whole lot of benefit without a lot of oxidative stress if you're fasting. Guys, you're going to get even more growth hormone, 2,000%. Ladies, 1,300. But consider women having less muscle mass. It kind of makes sense. Okay. If you're going to do the keto, you want to make sure you're getting some coconut oil every day. 2 tablespoons grass-fed butter, 2 tablespoons, some salt, 2 teaspoons. One of the mistakes when you're fasting is you're not getting food, so you're not getting your electrolytes. So consider taking 2 teaspoons of pink Himalayan salt in the morning, and then boiling a banana at night for about 5 minutes in the skin, cut the ends off, and boil that, and then drink the tea, because you're going to need the potassium, magnesium from the banana. Those electrolytes will help you stay healthy. It'll work on your cell, and it'll also help you sleep better if you take potassium at night, salt in the morning. And then 200 micrograms of iodide, the converted form of iodine, is very good to help that thyroid stay active through your metabolism. Skip this one today. Coming back to that cell membrane, because I really want you all to get this. The cell membrane in the brain cell. Bad fats, bad oils, toxins, metals, mold, excitotoxins, genetically modified organisms, vaccinations, and cavitations. People that have root canals, or a cat, and an infection in the mouth. That kind of stuff can really create sepsis and big problems in one's health. So we want to, if that needs to be cleaned out, just be conscientious, because that could be an area where we could get attacked. I don't know what just happened. We have mayhem in the masses here.
So just got a root canal.
Oh,
On Friday.
I lost 4 pounds, that's why. I got a root canal.
Eddie, we'll have to talk about that.
So great.
And then the culprit is
Just gotta hold
how that attacks and inflames the cell membrane too. So we want to be very cautious about, well, let's just say that we want to work toward eliminating that in our diet the best we can, unless it's like natural fructose from really good fruit or berries. What I'm learning is that if you have toxins in your brain, especially metals, mercury from old silver fillings, that can get up here in the pituitary, and it can release into the hypothalamic loop, and it can get into the thyroid. So it can actually circulate that dust. Just kind of like, if you don't change your air filter, you know how dust starts to circulate in the house? Same thing can happen in the brain, including the throat and the thyroid. So it's very important to go after cleaning this out, because if it gets here, it'll mess up your metabolism, it'll give you anxiety, give you metabolic issues, fatigue. So we got to look at fixing that. The medical doctor will say, well, let's just cut it out. Well, can we clean it out? Can we try that first? We talked about the addiction cycle a little bit last week. I want to finish up with 3 plateaus that I've been studying lately. Even if you've been doing all of this that I've been teaching, you can still hit a plateau. So I want to talk about 3 plateau busters. Too many oils, okay? You got to be careful of dirty keto. Canola oil, corn oil, soybean oil, cottonseed oil, safflower oil. 3 throw out all the cheap oils out of your pantry and replace them with avocado oil. Very expensive, but it has a very high flash point. It can handle the heat for frying. That's very good. If you want to go a little cheaper that still can handle a lot of heat for frying, coconut oil. Won't hurt you though. Won't bend the molecular structure and turn into something it shouldn't be. It'll still be healthy. When you go for your salads, get your extra virgin olive oil, and then you have your grass-fed butter in your ghee. But those will be your healthy and happy keto oils. And if you're struggling, even though you cut all of this out and you're still struggling, getting a breakthrough with losing weight, cut these in half. See what happens. A little diet variation. Let's play with it a little bit, okay? That's one plateau buster. You should get a photo. I saw a few people yawning, so I'm trying to read the room. I know it's a lot. Plateau number 2, not enough fasting. Let's just be honest. It's easy to, just kind of get into that complacent thing where, well, now I intermittent fast, and that's become kind of common, but I'm not doing any block fasting. And so we could literally up our game and start doing more mini block fasts, like 1 or 2 day, and get out of the 16 to 18 hour. We could do more. There's some more concessions that we could make in that regard. So intermittent fasting, block fasting, this is 16 to 18 hours. This is a full day or more. A dry fast is what the Jews do. I found out about this. It's really cool. On Yom Kippur, 1 day per year, they dry fast for 25 hours. No water even. I tried that by default one day when I went deep sea fishing. I just threw up everything. Couldn't drink. I just throw up. The next day I did walking lunges. My knees felt amazing. It's crazy. But the research on this, you get 3 times the autophagy. So that's like comparable to having 3 Miss Pac-Man going through your body cleaning house. So that's, to be an Israelite, what a benefit. That's something. And then the Daniel fast, which is a 10-day fast in the book of Daniel, where he just said, let's just give us vegetables and water. We don't want the rich king's foods. And that's a good way to have a different type of fast where you get like a vegetarian kind of effect, and you get a lot of fasting mimicking benefits in that regard. So that's another type of fast that we could use. Now over here in diet variation, feast-famine cycles, 5-1-1 protocol, intermittent fast, 1 day block fast, and then a feast day, right? Or you can go complete vegan like the Daniel fast, or we can separate our carbs from our protein. So you can go intermittent fast, drinking water, do your keto by day, and then have 1 carb load meal at the end of the day, and get that nice satiety that comes from having some carbohydrates. But instead of eating carbs all day long, just discipline it to that final meal, that 7 o'clock to 8 p.m. window, okay? And then here's the final plateau buster. And I hope this helps you. Fixing your sleep. It's been a big deal for me. Sleep issues are big-time problems for people that are struggling with their metabolism. You're not repairing. All of these hormones are released when you get deep delta sleep. T3, that's a converted form of thyroid. Human growth hormone. Insulin growth factor 1. Glucagon, which is fat-burning hormone, and testosterone, which is that male vigor hormone. Men have a whole bunch of it, and women have some of that. And those all help burn fat. But if you're not getting proper sleep, I think it's 5 1.5-hour cycles of delta sleep, then you're missing something. So we got to work on fixing that. Some people take, melatonin, right? Some people say you should shut the lights down, make it really dark, make it really cold in the house. Some guys even get blue blockers, so they're cutting out all infrared rays. I say make it dark, cold. I say read your Bible, shut down the media, have somebody pray for you, start drinking that banana tea, which gives you the potassium at night and magnesium, and then take the salt in the morning. And then if you have to, get your thyroid looked at, because there may be some deeper issues at that level. You may need an MD in that regard. So, I think we wrapped it up. We ran through it. Is that some new information for some? Is that new to anybody? Okay, fantastic. And that's review for some others? Okay, again, I just want to conclude with this. My goal isn't to make like a bunch of followers. It's really to equip and liberate a bunch of leaders. Y'all are all God's children, right? And God cares about you, and He wants you to be free. Whom the Son sets free is free indeed. This information is an amazing gift, and I wouldn't have learned this without your inspiration and invitation, and without your support. Thank you. I hope this blesses all of you. And I just want you to know that I'm available if you need some help. I love to coach. I love to do rehab. personal training, further nutrition coaching, and I love to give a great chiropractic adjustment. I use my hands, I use my feet, I don't care, whatever it takes to get that spine. I love you guys. Thank you for having me again. God bless you.
All right, guys.
Is that good?
Yeah,
All right.
perfect.
Thank you.
We'll break up in a group for like 10 minutes. I know we've got a couple things we need to cover. Make sure we got everybody's t-shirt sizes, 5K stuff. So maybe 10, 15-minute group, and then there you go.